So this won't work, eh? In your phone?
In my phone?
Yeah. If you need it. If you need it.
So that would enhance the phone?
That'd be another microphone.
I can just change this. I don't know why that's just let me finish this.
I borrowed it, so I don't know how it works, how well it works.
Okay. I'll try it in a second.
This is a good turnout.
That's thought I had all this figured out, but I'm redoing everything.
No?
The case is a
Mics are up.
Test. Okay. Okay, we're starting in 5 minutes, so please find a seat and get comfortable.
That's it.
Timer, I guess you're going to tell us. Is there a mic off? Do we need a timer?
I'm going to say this for them, but for you guys. She's going to give us. She gets her.
Okay, great.
This is Cassie. Hey, Cassie, just explain you're the bell person.
I am the bell person.
But what are you going to hold up for?
I'm going to hold up this at 15 seconds.
You got that, folks? The yellow card at 15
15-second
seconds.
warning. Should I ring the bell now? Hear it?
That's not yet.
Wait, okay.
I'll give you the cue.
What is it? Typing high.
Celebratory.
Some reading.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Clark, your moderator for tonight. I've been asked. It's my pleasure. Been a local resident since 1980, so I've been in every single election and voted from every single one, municipal, provincial, and federal. So it's good to see so many people out who are interested in tonight's session. This evening is being brought up to you by the four community groups: the Maple Ridge Climate Hub, Hub Cycling, the CEED Center Society, and Cinema Political. They have a table at the back with their information if you want to take a look at it afterwards. And I should have mentioned they're all local and they're nonprofit organizations. Before we start, I'd like to recognize that we are meeting here on the unceded territories of the Kwantlen and Keetsi nations. How many here tonight know what Keetsi means? Raise your hand. One person, two or three, good. It means the land of moss, which explains my front yard. So, but there's other good stuff on their website too, so folks should check them out, Kwantlen also. Should we have the need to leave the hall for any reason tonight on short notice? The exits are here. Go out the front door just like you came in, and everyone gather in the front parking lot, okay? We're hoping that doesn't happen, but just in case it does, exit slowly and safely. In a few minutes, our candidates will have 2 minutes each to introduce themselves and their party. After that, we will have a round of 7 questions. The Climate Hub invited members of the public to rate topics and suggest questions for the debate through an online forum. From the submissions, the organizing committee reviewed and edited the questions to ensure they cover the range of topics that matter most to local voters in this election. Candidates will have 1 minute to respond to each question, which they received several days ago. To add some potential excitement into the evening, each candidate has 4 wild cards. Wild cards can be used in 2 ways: to offer a rebuttal to something another candidate has said, or to elaborate on their own response. Each card is good for 1 minute. Following the 7 questions, there will be a 10-minute break, after which we will continue with the questions from the audience. If any of you do have questions, you have until 8 o'clock to submit them to the far table, and they have pen and paper there for you if you don't have any. At 8:50, the candidates will have 1 minute for final remarks, and we'll close up, and we'll be done by 9. And there's a bell to keep us on time. Okay? The way it works, the candidates will have a yellow card with 15 seconds to go, and the bell goes directly at 1 minute. Cassie will ensure that, and then the candidates have been warned. They have to stop talking then. This is an American television, so. Okay. And finally, the evening code of conduct. We are here to learn about the candidates' personal and party perspectives. Reasonable decorum is expected of the audience and the candidates to ensure a fair and equitable discussion. The moderator, and that's me, will ensure and maintain a productive and respectful environment. If anyone fails to maintain a reasonable decorum, they will be asked to leave. And we ask the candidates to respect each other by not speaking over one another and speaking to each other in a civilized manner. And we ask the audience to respect the candidates and show appreciation for good ideas with applause, but refrain from booing. No campaign-related information may be distributed inside the debate room on the walls and such, but candidates may display small form campaign material such as brochures and printed cards on the table in the debate room if that is set up for this purpose, the other far corner. And now your candidates. I should note that the candidate for the Green Party did not make the ballot, and the candidate for the People's Party of Canada was invited but unable to attend. The order of speaking was selected at random using one of my granddaughter's card games. The order will change for each question. And so with that, we will introduce the candidates. We have from the NDP, Daniel Heydenrych; from the Liberals, Angie Rowell; Conservative, Marc Dalton; and Rhinocéros Party, Peter Buddle. Marc. And we'll start the order tonight with the intro, and we'll maintain the same order for the first question. So for the first time, the Conservatives go first, NDP is next, the Rhinocéros, and finally the Liberals.
No, there's, you use that one. You can pull that right out and hold on to it.
Right on. Okay, sorry. There you go. I'm the guinea pig.
Oh, two. You have 2 minutes for your intro.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Brian. Thank you, Climate Hub, and all the organizations that are involved with sponsoring this event. And I know it takes a lot of work, and it's really important. And I see a lot of familiar faces that I've known over the years, and some are, I would say, political supporters, and some are not political supporters. But that's okay. That really is okay. You know, because we have one thing in common, is we love this country. We love this country. We care about it. We care about the future. You know, I go around, I see the Canadian flags all over draped, and you know, that's great. You know, I think that we rally around the flag, and because this is a beautiful country. We have a long history here. My roots go back through my mom, right to the French, right to the founding of Quebec. And on my dad's side, I'm Indigenous. I'm Métis. I'm a member of the Métis Golden, of GEMS, Goldiers Métis Society. And so I love our country. I want to fight for our country. I know we want to fight for our country. My dad was in the military, and I was in the military also. And proud of our history, proud of who we were and who we are now. And that's why I'm here. I'm here because I care about this country. I care about this community, our communities, Pitt, Meadows, Maple Ridge, and Mission. And I've lived here over 3 decades. I have that means 15 seconds, or what does that mean?
15 seconds.
Oh, well, okay, yeah. All right, that's all good. I have a new grandchild from yesterday, so one little granddaughter, and I'm here for her future and all our futures. Thank you.
Thanks, Marc. NDP next.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the organizers for having us. My background, I'm Daniel Heydenrych. I'm your NDP candidate for here. I come from South Africa. Some of you may know this already. So I grew up under apartheid. So I have first-hand experience living day to day with the kind of extremist rhetoric and violence that comes with that. And we've seen these policies down south, and some of them are trickling up, which is what prompted me to get into this race, to try and make sure that from a federal level we work on these kind of anti-hate initiatives and stamp this out. I'm a military veteran. I have served in both the South African and the British armies. I'm currently an officer in the Canadian Armed Forces Reserves as well. And in my service in previous military forces, in addition to deploying with allied nations, it has taught me that we have to work collaboratively, the importance of working collaboratively and taking multiple perspectives into account. For example, in South Africa, I volunteered to serve during the 1994 elections where Nelson Mandela became president because we were concerned about the extremist violence trying to stop the transfer of power through a free and fair election. In the British Army, I served on United Nations peacekeeping missions in Cyprus. I also served on reconstruction and development programs in Iraq. And subsequent to that, I worked on a variety of NGO and government humanitarian relief programs across Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. So working with medical NGOs and election NGOs, delivering primary health care, gender-based violence after conflict programs. Very quick. Okay. And then also working with the Jewish community since I've been moving to BC and facilitating anti-hate initiatives and interfaith programs throughout BC.
And Peter, you're up next.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for showing up tonight, and thank you for expressing your interest in the political life of this community. rarely do I speak with a lot of I statements, so this will be a little bit unusual for me. But a little background for you. I'm the eldest of 9 children, 4 of whom are adopted, and it's a multiracial family. So Cree, I have 2 Cree sisters, a black brother, and a brother from Central America. And I was tricked into the joys of fatherhood just once myself. My daughter is my pride and joy. But my involvement in the community has been as an educator, as a teacher. I've recently retired, but I taught since 2000 through adult education here in the community primarily. Now that, because I was working in adult ed, the contract for teaching in the jails here fell to me. So I taught many years, most of the 23 years that I taught here was in the jails. Learned a lot about community that way. Learned a lot about how crime actually works, what fosters it, what brings it, what are the remedies for criminal behavior in our society. And I got most of my best jokes there. I'm going to really limit what I have to say. I think the other candidates here are going to be a lot more erudite than I am. They're going to have a lot more to say. So thank you again for coming. Please, please, please vote.
Angie.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the moderators, organizers, and my fellow candidates for being here this evening. It's a privilege to be here. My name is Angie Rowell. As you can tell from my red jacket, I'm running for the Liberal Party. I've been here since 1970, so it's been a minute. My parents are in the crowd tonight, Debbie and Alan. And I've lived here my whole life. I've raised my family here. In Pitt, Meadows, and Maple Ridge, I've worked in both communities, and they mean a lot to me, as they mean a lot to my companions on the stage tonight. Not just because this is home, but because I see how much people care about each other. I care about where we live and what we leave for our future generations. And that's what called me to public service, a sense of responsibility to the people around me, to the future that we all play, or the role that we all play, in the future, again, that we want to leave for our children. Taking action, caring for our neighbors, our environment, and our shared well-being. And for me, I was guided by Marc Carney's leadership. I mean, I have to say that is truly what inspired me to run. I get emotional about this when I think about the threats to Canada and what's happening in our world today. Again, what motivated me to run and to be here tonight. I believe in working collaboratively with all levels of government. And I'm, again, absolutely delighted to be here this evening, and I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Angie. For the first question, we'll maintain the original sequence here, so consider this first. And the question is, in a world where facts are up for debate, how do you, or will you, ensure your decisions are backed by data instead of partisan rhetoric?
Yeah, good question. And I think that is so true. There is a lot of partisan rhetoric, and a lot of it is demonizing. And it there's blame everywhere. So, I think it's important to stick to the issues, stick to facts. I am a teacher by profession. I taught at Pitt Meadows Secondary School, Pitt Meadows Elementary, and Westview. And I tell students, look at the different angles. Don't just close people off because I've got a different opinion. Try to understand and listen. So that's so important. And so facts are important for me, listening to this community. I have I solicit responses. I go door knocking, I have many forums, and for me, it's engaging with the community. And a lot of my activities, a lot of things I bring forward is in response initiatives that I'm hearing from you. And I did this as a member of parliament and my 8 years as an MLA.
Thank you. On to Daniel.
So I have a background with international relations and international security. I have a degree and a master's in both of those. one of the things at university you would often have to do was to present on either side of a debate, regardless of what your particular opinion was. You had to be well-rounded and understand the implications and the facts from all angles. You had to be able to critically think and collate the information from multiple sources and present it in a way that was factual without any partisan rhetoric. So I'm always open to hearing from a variety of people from all walks of life, because you make the best decision with the most input, particularly from my reservist background. You could have someone that's a private in the reserves, but is a CEO in his civilian job, and he comes with a different perspective. So you take everything into account, because that little bit of information is just one piece of the puzzle that could help you figure things out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter, sorry.
My background in teaching was mathematics, and we don't learn math to push numbers around on a page. A calculator can do that. We learn math to bring or to develop a logical skill set that we can bring to problem solving without involving our feelings, which I think is probably the most transferable skill you can pick up in school. When it comes to partisan rhetoric, I'm representing the Rhinocéros Party. We don't have a policy. We don't have we don't have rhetoric. We don't have an ideology. We have humor and just the truth. All we really want to do is bring joy, happiness, and validity to the political system for a change.
Thank you. Angie.
Well, I couldn't agree more that every day it seems harder and harder to distinguish fact from fiction. I mean, online, the different things that we see and that are in front of us nonstop. I know for myself personally, when I see a story or a headline, I then try and find at least 2 or 3 other sources to verify that. And it's funny, recently a friend sent me a link to something, and she said, "Oh my gosh, can you believe this is happening in the world?" And I thought, that just sounds so crazy, how could that be true? But thought possibly it could be. And I couldn't find another source for it. You know, I go to my reliable sources that I trust, and sadly, I find we have to do that with anything to try and find out if something is accurate now. For me, working in the community, the biggest, and I will continue to say collaborative, is working with local organizations, multiple levels of government, make sure we're using data-based information to make our decisions.
Okay, does anyone want to play the wild card?
Does anybody want
I
to?
just wanted, do you want to play a wild card? Anybody? Nope? Okay. Sorry, we'll come to excitement later. Okay, question number 2, and we go in the order of Rhinocéros Party, Conservative, Liberal, and then NDP. So, question number 2. What steps will you take to promote unity among provincial, territorial, and Indigenous leaders in the face of current threats to Canada's economy and sovereign status?
Wow, I've got a whole minute for this? I lived on reserve for a few years. I lived in northern Quebec, in Kuujjuaq with an Inuit community. I lived in northern Alberta with a Cree community, each for a year. And unity, of course, within the nation is a very difficult thing. I did live in Quebec for a long time, so there was that division there, not within me, but I felt the division certainly with the people of Quebec and the rest of Canada, and vice versa. There is a lot to explore in this country, of course. One of the policies that I would like to bring to my campaign is a better link between British Columbia and Quebec. I think those 2 provinces know nothing about one another, and there should be a wonderful exchange program freely available to residents to explore the other provinces.
Thank you. Angie.
I believe that unity isn't just a national ideal, it's a practical necessity, especially when our economy and our sovereignty are under pressure. First, I'll push for structured, ongoing forums that include all voices. Second, advocate for strong investments in Indigenous-led economic development And with that, I refer to Heydenrych, a recent trip I've had there. I'm just absolutely in awe of what is happening in Heydenrych. It is the most, if you've not had the opportunity, I wish everyone could see what is happening there. It's absolutely amazing. And then third, aligned to support with local and regional priorities right here in our riding. So if we have all three levels of government working together, we have the federal government, the provincial government, and municipal all working together, that's when we're going to get our infrastructure improvements and we're going to see results. Unity isn't about agreeing on everything, it's about building trust, finding common ground, and leading with respect.
Daniel.
So yeah, I agree on the need for more unity in Canada. There's a lot of divide at the moment. One of the things that I believe the Liberal Party presented was reducing the interprovincial and inter-territory trade barriers. Obviously, that might only get done if we have enough NDP in Parliament to hold them to it. The other thing is making sure that we follow up when we're talking about the Indigenous, the Métis and the Inuit, the First Nations people of Canada, making sure we follow up on the TRC's 94 calls to action. Only 12 of those have been implemented in all the years that they've been working on them, which is a tragedy. As well as making sure that we have better Indigenous representation in Ottawa, specifically with regards to broken treaty promises and land claims that have been unresolved.
Thank you, and I apologize, I mixed the order up, so Mark will be going last on this.
Do I get an extra minute?
No.
Yeah, no, I've been both in government and also in the opposition. So sometimes we don't like negativity, it kind of grates on us. But I've seen just how important opposition is. So otherwise it's like, oh, this is a great idea, but the role of the opposition, whatever party that is, I've seen NDP opposition, us as opposition, you need to point it out. That is, you are required, you're the official opposition. So that has been our position as Conservatives the past 10 years. And one of the examples is carbon tax. We've been opposing this for many years. And it was like, all the time, it was like, no, 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 no. And now what happens? You know, we see that really hasn't had an effect. It's been scrapped on individuals. Arrive can, that's another thing. We opposition points on scandals, points on deficiencies, and you know what? It's meant to bring accountability.
Okay, on to question 3, and we'll go NDP, Liberal, Conservative, and Rhinocéros Party on this one. What is your party's plan for immigration to ensure that we're not overloading our support systems, such as housing, education, and healthcare, but still maintaining Canada as a diverse and welcoming country?
Well, Canada is an immigrant nation. I'm an immigrant. I chose to be here. It's a fantastic place. Our immigration system must be accountable to Canadians and must be rooted in our values of fairness, respect, and dignity. What we are looking to do is to make sure that immigration levels and immigration policies meet Canada's labour force needs. So working with provinces at all levels and making sure that we are working with kind of settlement services and foreign credential recognition to make sure that we can fast track those with the skills that we need into the industries that we need them in. Not too many people are getting to Canada and do not have a way to transfer their really high level skills into something that we can use. And you see doctors driving Ubers and engineers working at takeouts. That is unacceptable. So making sure that we can have these skill sets in Canada.
Angie?
Well, again, Daniel, I think we agree on many things. Yes, we do. So Canada's strength is really rooted in our diversity. Immigration has always been key to our growth. And I think first we need to better coordinate with provinces, territories, and municipalities, targeting the infrastructure and services available on the ground before we just throw people into new environments without those services. We need to invest in affordable housing, fast-tracking builds, and welcoming new Canadians must go hand in hand with expanding our housing supply, which is a whole other issue we could talk about a lot tonight. We need to accelerate credential recognition, as Daniel said, and get people with skills in the jobs that they're trained for. I know that right now recruiters across the country are dealing with upwards over 100 inquiries a month from doctors from other countries that want to come to be in Canada. And our goal is balance, a strong, welcoming Canada that grows responsibly and sustainably. And I will always advocate for policies that reflect compassion, common sense for our riding and our country.
Marc.
So we have had a world-class immigration system, but I would say that it has become broken. It's become out of whack under the Liberal government. And right now there's about 1.3 immigrants, and we do need immigrants, but we need immigration in corresponding to housing, what they can afford, how many places there are, as far as jobs, skills. That's just the balance. As those capabilities go up, then we need more immigrants. So certainly, Conservatives support immigration, but in balance. And just look at the food banks here. Friends in Need food banks. I mean, the demand is so challenging. Other food banks. Food banks use has doubled across this nation, and that's a crying shame.
Noticing a bit of feedback back there.
What's that?
A bit of echo back there, I think. Can you guys hear everything? Okay, maybe it's just me. I'm getting the back bounce. Okay. Sorry, Peter, go ahead.
No problem. I will commend the other. This thing's on, right? I will commend the other candidates here for some great ideas that they've just expressed. I think that they brought up a lot of good points. As far as immigration goes, I wonder if 200, 300 years ago, if we asked the First Nations communities in this country their opinion of the immigrants that were coming here, spilling in from Europe, and their influence, how they would have felt about it, and how they're feeling about it now. And I would like to make sure that the Indigenous community in Canada is brought to the table when it comes to discussing immigration issues. It's their country. We're on their unceded territory.
Okay, thank you. Highest applause yet. We are taking notes. Question number 4. Oh, sorry. Any wild cards? Come on, you have 4.
I know, you said it was going to add excitement, but I don't know.
Okay. No wild card today, or right now. Question number 4. Recognizing the difference between federal and provincial jurisdiction when it comes to health care, what measures will your party take to improve Canadians' access to family physicians and nurse practitioners?
Same order.
Yeah, good question. Hold on. Liberal, Rhinocéros, NDP, and Conservative.
Thank you. I think in my last answer I made comment about the 100 plus inquiries a month about doctors trying to come into Canada. Obviously that plays a key role into this. We need more healthcare providers. Every one of us in this room, while you may not suffer from it personally, you may know someone who does not have access to a nurse care practitioner or a family doctor, or you phone and you can't get an appointment for 2 weeks, which is not very helpful when you have an immediate need. I have a whole pile of notes here, and clearly I guessed how much time we had here and what I could speak to. So the one experience that I want to talk to you about tonight is around team-based care. And I know the care clinic in the Haney Place Mall, I recently had an appointment there. There was 4 healthcare providers with me for a specialized appointment. I had access to a nurse, a doctor, a pharmacist, and a therapist. One appointment normally would have taken 5 months. I was all together, left with a diagnosis and treatment, and I want to promote more team-based healthcare.
Thank you. My first opportunity to vote federally happened in 1984, I believe, when there was an opportunity for me to vote for a Rhinoceros candidate of all people. And at the time, Their only real policy was reform of Canada's national marijuana laws. That's not why I voted for them, but I think it was quite funny that in 2018, I believe, marijuana was legalized in Canada, and I think we've seen a benefit from its use health-wise, both physical and mental health-wise. And I think I'd like to underline that last part. The mental health requirements in the country are becoming more and more to the surface, and that seriously needs addressing.
Okay, it goes to Daniel.
So, healthcare has to remain a human right in Canada. We have to make sure that we have to make sure that we do not end up with an American-style pay-for-service healthcare system. It is absolutely integral that we force this through, and ensuring that we have the right physicians and the right nurse practitioners and the right nurses is also important. The way to do that is to remove, again, these interprovincial and interterritorial barriers, making sure we have a pan-Canadian licensing for nurses, for nurse practitioners, for physicians, so you're able to move where they need to go. There's a lot of communities that desperately need, specifically in the north and rural areas, that are desperate for physicians and desperate for healthcare. I have friends that are in remote areas, and they go through periods where their clinics and their hospitals are shut down because there's only the one doctor who moves between 3 or 4 locations. That's unacceptable. So we have to also find a way to train more medical practitioners, and again, the skill credits for people coming in from out of the country, converting that.
Marc.
Yeah, so here probably I sometimes share a sad joke, and that is if you have to go to emergency, don't call an ambulance, call an Uber driver. And I'm serious. I've taken Uber drivers, and they are doctors. I was on global television a while back with one surgeon here in Maple Ridge, and he was unable to practice. There are 20,000 doctors and 35,000 nurses that are unable to practice, and it is the Conservatives will bring about a Blue Seal program, basically to find, to help qualify, and where there's gaps, to get training. I will give you an example of a man I met a couple days ago at his doorstep. He said his son is a doctor, his daughter is an ear, eyes, and throat specialist from Malaysia, was here 8 years. She took 3.5 years of training and said, well, there's no place for you, and she moved back. That's the type of people that we need and are losing.
Thanks, Marc. Keep the mic here. Next. Keep the mic.
I'm next.
So question number 5 is, first off, there's 2 statements, and then we ask a question about how they feel about the statements. So, our planet, and with it Canada, is facing an existential environmental crisis, which requires that we urgently reduce the use of oil and gas to supply our energy needs, and switch to renewable sources to meet the demand. At the same time, Canada is facing an economic and sovereignty crisis, bringing calls to build new pipelines and expand oil and gas production, which would be contrary to achieving the first goal. Do you agree with the first statement? If not, please explain your understanding of the causes and effects of climate change. If you do agree, how would your government achieve these seemingly opposite goals? Marc.
Okay, so scrapping the carbon tax was a good move. It was a tax plan and not an environmental plan. And the Conservative Party prioritizes innovation over taxation. The good example in Pitt Meadows with Up Vertical that can produce enough leafy greens for all of BC, Alberta, and the Northwest for using no pesticides, 99% less land, water, and fertilizer while recycling carbon dioxide. That's a sort of innovation. Exporting Canadian natural gas could have a transformative impact on global emissions. If half of India's new electricity demands over the next 20 years were met by our natural gas instead of coal, which they're using, global emissions would drop by 2.5 billion tons, 3 times Canada's total emissions. This approach achieves far more than shutting down our economy, proving that Canadian innovation can lead the way to environmental solutions.
Daniel.
So it's an emphatic yes to the first point. I agree that we're facing an existential crisis. We absolutely need to reduce and eventually replace our dependence on fossil fuels, but you have to understand that this is a phased transition, not a cut and run. That's the only way we can sustain the economy and make sure that things are working properly. Just today, you might have seen a story about 15 billion giveaway to the TMX pipeline, 15 billion handout to an industry that posts massive profits every single year and gives 100 million handouts to their CEOs every year. Why are we subsidizing them? So one of the things we need to do is make sure that we eliminate oil and gas subsidies. If they're able to function, they should be able to function. It shouldn't be a handout for them. As well as keeping the emissions cap and industrial carbon price, and ensure that we shift our focus to an east-west climate grid, an east-west clean electricity network. New pipelines should only take place if they're going to be focused on meeting the Indigenous consultation requirements.
All right. About 50 years ago, it would have been really appropriate to start building refineries in Canada for a huge amount of oil. And yet, where are they? Our oil is shipped over the border into the United States and sold back to us at a loss. As we are moving away from a petroleum-based society, we're still going to be dependent on it for some time. We're going to have to think about these things, and again, the time to think about some of these things was 50 years ago. When we're moving oil and coal and other fuels across the ocean in tankers, what if we didn't have those dependencies? Again, all the pollution that came off of those freighters would reduce to nothing. We've got stuff to think about, and we'll back up Daniel on his point about the subsidies to the oil industry.
Angie?
I think we're all in agreement. Canada's facing a climate emergency, and we have to act with urgency and ambition. There's no question about that. Our planet's future depends on drastically reducing our reliance on fossil fuels and accelerating to shift to clean, renewable energy. Scaling up on expandable, renewable energy like wind, solar, green hydrogen. Supporting our workers and communities through this transition, because as already has been mentioned, it can't happen overnight. We have to help the transition process. And strengthening building retrofit programs, electrifying our transportation, building our communities to be more walkable, having walk scores, walkable factors, so we don't have to get into the car every time we do something. And this is not just an environmental imperative, it's an economic opportunity, and Canada can lead the world in clean energy, and we're committed to making that future a reality.
I will now ask the question. Is there a wild card being played?
All right, just mix things up a little bit here.
Okay, we have a wild card.
Okay, so this will go to the NDP, Daniel, and I agree about the bailouts. But I wonder if you would make a comment here about the fact that the Kindermarken was going to build, and had been approved to build a pipeline across the mountains to the coast, which is now built. And it would cost $9 billion in private dollars. Wouldn't cost taxpayers anything. It ended up costing $40 billion. The Liberals basically bailed the system, paid for that system. I wonder what he might say about the taxpayer, which is our dollars, our money, and the waste, and as using government and taxpayer money as opposed to private sector money.
Any other wild cards? Are you playing a wild card?
No, he asked me. I asked the question.
Yeah, I know, but okay, fair enough. Your rules? Okay.
Do I not
It
respond?
wasn't in my rule sheet. Thanks. No, go ahead.
Yeah, you wrote.
I'm the Wrong one, not you.
All righty. Well, on this one, I agree. We shouldn't be bailing out. They shouldn't be using taxpayer money for that. If it's a private endeavor, it should be a private endeavor. If we're going to give handouts and subsidies, we should give it equally to these sustainable energies so that they are all on an equal playing field and not being left behind.
Who went? We're done then, right? Okay, on to question 6. What are your and your government's plans and policies to create sufficient and affordable housing supply in Canada? How long will this take? How can this be accomplished in a way that also supports climate and the environment? And we're starting with
the Rhinocéros Party, Peter.
You know, you can build an igloo in an afternoon, so I think that would probably cover a lot of our problems.
Not with climate change.
True enough. It's obvious that we have a problem with housing in Canada right now. I don't have the solutions to this. Off we go to the next.
okay, next is, no, it's back to Mark now.
So, I bought a new townhouse 30 years ago with my wife, Maureen, and when I was a first-year teacher, and my wife, she did a little bit of work, but primarily stayed at home with our 3 kids. That's impossible nowadays, and that's a reason why I'm finding that so many of the young people around 65 are coming to Conservatives because they want a future. They want an opportunity that we had, what I had, growing up. And so that is so important. The Conservatives will provide a few things. One is $1.3 million GST we're taking off. That's $65,000. We're taking away 15% of federal buildings will be sold to build homes, and we'll cut red tape. We are looking at ways to fire up our economy, and most of all, we're not going to be empty promises. Like the Liberals are throwing out promises like, well, there's going to be 500,000 homes a year that we're building. It is fanciful. They have not been successful in 10 years, and they will not be successful in the future.
Okay, I love this question. Now I'm warming up to this. I'm getting better at this. So I'm delighted about this piece of the Liberals' platform and the commitment to building houses like we did after World War II. And there's a story that I'd like to share with you about my friend Margaret. She came to Canada, and her husband were able to get a home through the government program. They raised their family there. It was a home that fit their budget. It fit their ability to raise their family, live their life. They lived there for 65 years. And she explained to me how at the time, if it wasn't for this housing, they would not have been able to get into a home. And again, they lived in it for 65 years. And I think with the government committing to providing housing in this way, we're going to make a real difference.
So all the parties have very similar plans about how many they want to build and timelines for that. As Marc said, some of it is a little fanciful because we need the workers, we need the industries to actually produce these houses. But housing should be a right, and we should work towards that, especially when we're making these houses. It's not about making the houses, it's also about who's making the money on these houses. So the NDP plan is to try and build more of these houses on government land. They're not going to be for profit, right? We're trying to get people in houses that are affordable so that they can actually live in their communities and live close to where they want to work, close to where they want to raise their families, instead of having to travel for an hour or 2 at a time. We need to make sure that whether you're renting or owning, we address the renovictions and the price gouging and the crazy price hikes. I mean, me and my wife, we couldn't even buy in our neighborhood now because the prices have nearly doubled in the few years that we've been there. It's becoming unacceptable at this point, and it's pricing young people out of the market.
Okay, question 7. Yeah, we have very wild cards. Come on, you got 4 of them or 3 of them. Yeah, Mark's played one. Come on. Okay. I'll get played in this one. Okay. Do you see moving away from our car-centered transportation systems as part of the answer to meeting our emission reduction targets? And if so, how will your government support this? And we're starting with Daniel.
All right. So transportation accounts for around 25% of greenhouse gas emissions in Canada. That's just being stuck in a gridlock, trying to get to work every day, or moving goods around the provinces. I would like to see a move away from this, obviously, but there's a lack of adequate funding for housing, for public transit networks, for a whole variety of things. So one of the things that we need to work towards is providing more funding for public transit. We touched on that, electrified systems that don't produce as much pollution, massively discounted fares or fare-free areas, right? It's a huge thing that I'm hearing at the doorsteps these days. And this ties back to supporting local businesses, affordable housing, and developing walkable communities so that you can live and thrive in the community where you're at instead of having to travel for hours and hours and putting it into food and other essential resource deserts that a lot of places are experiencing.
Angie.
I think you and I should fix the world together, Daniel. All right. So when I look at this question, the first thing I think of is a community like Fort Langley. I think within a walkable distance, I think you can all picture it, there's condos downtown, there's grocery stores, there's restaurants. A short distance away, there is single-family homes, townhouses. There's recreational opportunities. And when we look at a village-style format, I mean, the possibilities are just incredible to create that walk score factor, to have that quality of life and those small retailers available to you. If you need a loaf of bread, a quart of milk, you don't have to drive to the grocery store or to a bigger store out of your neighborhood. And I think about this building, I think about ECRA. Why was this building put here? Because it's walkable to the grocery store, it's walkable to a pharmacy, it is walkable to get your basic needs. And from a development perspective, a new friend to me recently said, think of what you want to do and then wrap the environment around it. That's the way to do it.
Thank you. Marc.
I've lived here for decades, and I can never get tired of just how beautiful the mountains are, the Pitt Boulder, the dikes, and it's so invigorating. I want, and the Conservatives want to protect that, and we want to enhance it. And so, within the word conservative, conservation is very close to it. And so that really is our heart. But we do support a balanced approach. And what I mean by a balanced approach, I mean we have to recognize in suburban areas and rural areas there's more of a need for vehicles. And we can't demonize that. We can't say, but we do also recognize that where there is the density, that the transportation systems need to be enhanced and provided, because that leads to better conservation and better fuel economy and a variety of things. So you have to have a balanced approach. Thank you.
And goes to,
I don't know how many of you have actually wasted your time reading books that come from the World Economic Forum. I read 2 books by Klaus Schwab. One of them, he said in every paragraph, I could hear his Bond villain voice, the force of the industrial revolution. I could hear it in every paragraph, and it was awful. And one of the things that was discussed in these books was 15-minute cities where everything is 15 minutes away. What concerns me about that sort of thing is the control grid on everyone's lives. If this kind of thing is incorporated, we don't necessarily have the solutions just yet to this very big question on which we each have a minute to speak. So I think we got to start considering what young people have to say, because it's their world. Okay, I'm Gen X, I'm gone. So I'm pretty sure some of the things that young people would say as a solution here is skateboards.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, that's the end of our organized questions. What we're going to do now, we're going to take a short 10-minute break. You still have 10 minutes to submit questions to the back table. They are taking them all and grouping them up, common questions, to make sure we get as many as we can. We'll come back in and we'll finish off with these impromptu questions.